So yeah, the Monster Squad. I remember this movie. I remember when it came out. I remember seeing the commercial. I went to see it in the theater.
Wow, I'm so
I was younger than the kids in this movie.
Oh my god!
You know, it's like one of those things where like you're a kid, you go see a movie, and there's these kids in it that are older than you. They seem like they got everything figured out, and then a couple years later, you're watching it again. You're like, who are these punks? Who are these little kids? You know, telling everybody off. You know.
Yeah, it's like you watch the kid's mouth out with soap.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like, why was like
we're the Monster Squad? Like I remember that, you know, that kid, and it's like, oh man, he's so badass. We're the Monster Squad. Yeah, you tell him. You know, and he kind of has this voice, this like husky voice, and he sounded like he's got this deep voice.
Yeah, it's like a couple things. Like one, when I watched it this time, the kid's dad, who looks like he came out like Madame Tussauds Weapons. I was praying that he's not younger than me.
Right, exactly.
Like, please don't let me be older than this kid's fucking
That
dad.
is funny. That is funny going from being younger than the kids in this movie to being older than their dads.
Yeah, in the movie, it looked like he got his face smacked around by like a catch or something. I was like, please don't let me be.
It was the 80s. You know, we talk about leaded gas.
Yeah,
you know, cigarettes.
This was another like fantasy fulfillment too, because like, you know, I'm like a dork, and like in this movie, it was like, oh my god, there's a kid cooler than the bullies, who can like put the bully like Rudy like one level above, like the coolest kid in school bypasses the shithead and like sides with like the dorks.
The dorks. Yeah, like again, when you're making a movie, all this stuff is so obvious in retrospect, but when you're making a movie and you're trying to get it financed and get everybody on board, it's like you're cutting and pasting from other sort of hit movies. So it's like, okay, let's take a little bit of My Bodyguard and stick it in there, you know?
Yeah, and little Fonz.
Mini
Fonz.
Yeah, Happy Days. I think Happy Days might have just recently gone off the air before this.
Yeah, 87.
Yeah, it was 87. I think the last episode of Happy Days is like 84 or 85, something like that.
Very close.
So yeah.
And like
but it was still in rerun.
Yeah, we could catch it. I was watching it in rerun.
Matt, okay, we've been working our way through all these Happy Days. Now, I was telling my wife about it, so she's like, okay, yeah. So, like, I turned it on, and, like, I kind of, like, wasn't paying attention to what I was doing, and it was just kind of the episode that, if you, like, search Happy Days, it was, like, the default episode that goes on. I put it on, we're watching it, and then Richie is pulling the Fonz in a water, on, like, a water ski. And she's like, iconic. Yeah, she's like, is this the Jump the Shark episode? I'm like, I don't think so. I think, because, I think this is probably a later episode that's maybe using some stock footage from but then, before you know it, it's like, oh shit, this is the Jump the Shark episode. And so I think they know what you're looking for. So that's like the default. If you just randomly type in Happy Days, that's where it brings you.
Like Jump the Shark.
It was so good. We got to do an episode. We'll do an episode because I was like guffawing so hard.
Totally Jumps the Shark.
Yeah. Right.
I'm wearing like, I don't know.
So like hold that space.
Please, God,
hold that space. We're going to do, but we're not doing Jump the Shark right now. We're doing the Monster Squad. And also Monster Squad, it was kind of like, it was one of those movies. It was like maybe, you know, the first movie or one of the first movies for me where it's like, I was real excited from the commercial and then I was kind of underwhelmed by the movie. And now, I mean, years later, revisiting it and stuff, it's a classic. It's a classic.
So cool.
But at the time, I was kind of like, because the commercial, and I think like, you know, the basic like gist of it as it, you know, comes out is like, it seemed like it was going to be like, ooh, another Ghostbusters. You know, it was going to be this, going to be like monsters and stuff, but funny and it does have that, but it doesn't, you know, it's not Ghostbusters. I mean, Ghostbusters is not a thing that's like easily replicated. So
it's like a one of a kind.
Yeah.
Fred Decker, we're doing the Holy Trinity. We did RoboCop 3. He got the concept for this from, he was trying to do an Little Rascals meets Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein.
Brilliant. Okay, I see that now.
And then this just like came from that. Isn't that pretty fucking cool?
That is awesome. And it does make sense. Like, if you're going to do the Little Rascals, it's like, you're not going to set it in the 30s and have alfalfa and stuff. Like, it's like, it's the 80s. Let's get some 80s kids. Let's get some kids with, the 80s fashions. And again, it worked. Like, I was the right demographic for this movie. And it was like, it felt like, yeah, here's something for us.
I had saw it on VHS.
Okay.
After I missed the whole theatrical run of it. But like, we were renting stuff once again. We always had, I keep mentioning the iconic Farmore, like video rental place. We had rented this. And then there's a companion piece to this. It's on Tubi. It's called The Willies. Have you ever seen The Willies?
No.
So it's got Sean Astin in it.
Okay.
And it holds the distinction of being the only movie my mom would screen us all kinds of great movies and stuff and would fast forward through violence and stuff. It was the only movie she ever made us shut off.
Vetoed.
Like, we had rented it.
So she didn't veto the rental. Because I thought maybe the name scared her, because of what like Willies means in like, is your mom British? She's like, we're not renting the Willies. There's Matthew, there is no way the Willies, a film called The Willies, is making its way into our home.
I'm like, it's like Willies 2 coming up for air. It's like, it does like the rules of Gremlins. It's like, don't feed them after don't get them wet. Oh no, it looks like you've got your willy wet. It's like Gremlin. We gotta do a fucking, instead of the Ghoulies, it's the Willies.
Exactly, that's exactly what I was thinking. Like, I don't know anything about the Willies, so I'm assuming like it's 80s. So it's like, yeah, Gremlins, Ghoulies, Willies.
This is like, it's kids at like camp. The Willies. Don't take your willy out for air. It's like, some like weird.
Midnight. Yeah, don't bring it in sunlight. Keep it out of the sunlight.
Fucking die. Like the weird shop owner showed you
his Willy. Yeah, like the Mogwai box has like a hole in it.
The old hole in a thing of popcorn trick. Somebody's like...
So, Matt, that's our next Total Recall production is Willies, and it's like a Gremlins thing, but it's like, it's like it pops out of the popcorn box. It's like, it's just like
somebody gets taken to the hospital because they burn their dick on the popcorn, doing a hole in a popcorn container.
So enough as your mom would say, enough frivolity. Tell me about the Willies. Tell me.
I'm fucking done. It's like the shopkeeper showed. He's like, the shopkeeper did what? He showed you his Willy. It's like, the rules are simple. 1, don't expose your Willy to oxygen.
To daylight.
The Willies is on Tubi. It has Sean Astin in it. It's like, kids are telling scary stories in like a tent, like at a camp.
Yeah. I
never made it because I had like thought about this movie forever, and I just relearned what it was because there was the scene that my mom made us stop it at was where they were telling like each other gross stories, and one was where a woman puts a poodle in the microwave to like dry it off, and then it explodes.
Right.
And she was like, we shut the movie off.
Well, yeah, that was the big scene in Gremlins.
Yeah.
In Gremlins, it was like, oh, a microwave. This is like, everybody just recently got a microwave, and it was like perfect timing for like an exploding
creature.
Yeah, and it was super gross seeing this, kind of abstract, monster or whatever get roasted. So yeah, to have a cute little poodle. Yeah.
And then apparently, I haven't rewatched it on Tubi. I still haven't seen the whole thing beyond the first part of the movie. But I was looking around the internet once I found what the movie was called, and they apparently we'll see when we watch it, but they took the poodle scene out of they've removed the whole scene.
You're getting the blockbuster edit.
Yeah.
No, that's smart. I mean, hey, that's what made your mom. I'm sure there's plenty of moms who were like, we are not watching
the Willies, but we're doing the Total Recall production of the fucking
Willies.
The Willies.
Monster Squad. The nostalgia level is really high in this, and it is kind of 87's an interesting year because it's like I feel like the early 80s nostalgia and like the 80s becomes the 90s nostalgia. Those are kind of very clear, but this is kind of like an in-between phase. I forgot a lot of this stuff. I forgot a lot of these fashions.
This movie's TriStar, and I was like, well, they're rocking the Universal Monsters. Universal had international rights for this movie.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, because it's a total Universal. It's got the classic Universal ones, and they're like doing, I like the characterization of each of them. Like, Dracula is kind of like this mastermind, who's bopping around. The guy who plays Dracula is good.
Really good.
A good fit,
Guess what? Our Dark Man episode, originally, by the skin of his teeth, Liam Neeson was almost the fucking Dracula in this. Wouldn't that have been interesting?
That is interesting, because I've been watching, and we'll do some episodes about this, but I've been watching a lot of those, like, Carl Laemmle Jr. present, kind of movies and stuff. And you got Bela Lugosi as Dracula, and then he pops up in other movies, in other roles and stuff. And, like, his Dracula, I mean, it's obvious, but, like, his Dracula is so great, so iconic. And, again, it's one of those performances that has sort of been made fun of, pilloried or whatever, but, like, we all love it.
Definitely.
And he really, like, he is so Dracula. And when you see other people playing Dracula, you're, like, he does it so well. Like, it's...
he's nailing it.
Yeah, he nails it. And so then, like, nobody else can ever quite measure up. But, like, the Bela Lugosi Dracula, it's like, I've got this new appreciation. I mean, it's one of those things that's, more obvious than obvious, but, like, just rewatching this stuff, I've got such an appreciation for it. And then seeing him in some of these other movies, like when he's Igor in Son of Frankenstein and stuff, that might be his best performance. He's, like, really...
You were talking that up. I've never seen Son of Frankenstein.
Yeah.
I can't wait to watch that.
Yeah, it's good. We'll have to talk about it sometime, because it is good. But yeah, so yeah, it's got all the monsters, and, like, the Frankenstein is, like, the one who is, they fall in love with, like, he becomes, like, their best friend, buddy. And he's kind of like their protector, and, like, he's got this, like, little girl that he's friends with, and instead of throwing her into a lake,
her best buddy, little ET kind of.
Yeah, that's like they're using the same filter, and
the golden hour shot,
and so then the Dracula is like this manipulator, and then the Wolfman is like this tragic character who, like, can't control himself, and then the Mummy is, like, doing his, dragging his foot, doing his mummy thing.
I always got scared when I was little too, because, like, when they do the investigation scene at the museum, it reminded me of, like, the local museum.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh god, it made me more scared in the Mummy exhibit.
I feel like with the tone of this, that, like, they made tonal adjustments in sort of the final cut that made, like, the prologue of this movie, it's, like, really good prologue, and I feel like they kind of undercut it with that opening text where it's like they were trying to stop the forces of evil, but they fucked up. Like, they kind of undercut it.
You're so right. I thought,
like, you need to jettison that text and just let that thing play out the way it plays out, because it's got kind of a little more of, like, an interesting, like, darker tone. There's a little more surprise. Absolutely. But to say, like, oh, they fucked it all up, and then you watch the scene where they fuck it all up, like let us be surprised when that happens.
But also, like, there's, like, I know it's a goofy, like, Monster Squad, but, like, it's serious business, and, like, that kind of, like, sets you off on the wrong foot.
Right. Like, I feel like if they made this now, they would kind of they'd nail the tone a little better than they do. And I do think they wanted, like, a Ghostbusters. They wanted to up the comedy.
Yeah.
And it is, like, you can't help but think of Stranger Things with this. Even with, the sort of, like, cool dude, and then the kids on the bikes. Again, the kids on bikes is, it's like an E.T. thing.
Even the guy in Stranger Things has, like, this dude's haircut, Rudy's haircut.
Yes, yeah.
The pomp, like...
And again, I'm sure they've probably cited this movie, like,
as an
influence,
guys, and love all the like, posters and stuff they have in their treehouse.
Right, because it's also kind of like, you think of, like, the Scream movies and stuff, but it is, like, it's one of those sort of, like, knowing horror kind of thing, where it's like the kids in it are horror fans. They have their monster club, which becomes a monster squad. So yeah, they have all these great like Godzilla posters and things.
And that opening thing too, like that would be like, once again, we always love the finale of another movie starting at the beginning.
Yeah.
And it's like whenever they do blow it, I was like, oh shit, so this is what it would look like if the fucking like finale failed in another movie.
Yeah.
Like,
of course it sets it up so when, we have the similar thing happening, in the climax of this movie,
you're like, oh yeah.
It establishes the stakes and things. And again, it's like pre-CGI. So it's like so beautiful, like the little like sort of vortex that everybody gets sucked in, and it's like so cool just knowing that like every one of those elements is like an in camera, handmade. We're the Monster Squad. That like he drinks milk before every take so we get there. We're the Monster Squad. Give me a keg of beer.
Oh yeah, the Pepsi logo.
Cup. Yeah. The Pepsi logo in that paper cup.
Wow. And then
they have a lot of these cuts, a lot of these sort of smart cuts where it's like, like he spits something out and then they cut to like a scene, like he's in the diner, he spits something out and then they cut to like a splash in like the lake or whatever,
And you know what? Like he's serious business, but like I want my Dracula to look like a Halloween costume.
Yeah.
I need that costume.
Yeah, like the collar and stuff. And yeah, like
awesome.
Talking about like Liam Neeson in that, being in that Dracula role. Liam Neeson is like a total Bela Lugosi. Like he has the Bela Lugosi head shape, face shape, like he like how come he hasn't played Dracula?
Is that so like obvious? Like,
yeah,
what the fuck?
I mean, it is cool that he got to play Darkman because Darkman is maybe a little bit in that realm, in that sort of Universal Monsters realm. But yeah, like stop everything and make like a Bela Lugosi movie, like make a
older Bela.
Yeah, make Ed Wood 2 or something with him in the Bela Lugosi role.
Liam Neeson, he's buried in his Dracula cave. Yeah, because
is another like. Did you get to watch Renfield yet?
Not yet.
Because I saw Renfield.
Oh, it's on Peacock. I'm gonna watch that.
Nicolas Cage as Dracula is just a real treat. Shit. A real treat.
I can't.
And it makes me wish it wasn't a Renfield movie because like Renfield is like the main guy, is sort of the star, and then Dracula is kind of he's not the star, and it's like if. Making that movie, it's like, I understand they have this script that revolves around Renfield, but once Nicolas Cage shows up as Dracula, it's like, okay, we're making the wrong movie. We got to make the movie about this guy.
In interviews, he said, like, Dracula was one of his all-time, like, dream roles.
Oh, for sure. And I was watching the Son of the Beach episode where Gilbert Gottfried gets to play Dracula, and, like, I know that for him, that was like a lifetime achievement. Like it was a dream for, and he plays it so well. He plays, Dracula spot on, and he's doing the Bela Lugosi Dracula, but like, and it's in this like goofy, ridiculous show. But you like, I was so happy for him watching him in that, and it's like, Dracula. That's the great. I'd love to play Dracula.
I was definitely Dracula for Halloween multiple times.
Me too. Yeah, Dracula, as my ninth grade history teacher called him, Dracula.
It's like, what do we got there? Dracula and Nuclear.
Yeah.
They got the radios.
And I was thinking about how like last year we read the Dracula play and talked about it. But like I want to reread that because that was really good.
Definitely, the great recommendation too.
Like
by the way,
the pairing of that with the original Dracula movie and then the Dracula play, because the Dracula movie it's like it needed a little bit of that the oomph that the play has.
Yeah, like great pick too. I'm gonna have to like. Track that. I might actually buy it.
Yeah, me too. Like I got it out of the library, but I think it's worth owning. And then we'll act it out. We'll do the Total Recall production of it. We got the creature from the Black Lagoon in this.
So awesome.
So they're all there, and they look really great. They're all like a little more toned.
They are.
They're like a little more svelte than they were in like the 1930s.
The Wolfman looks like he's been working out with Body by Jake.
Yeah, he's
His
like he's top heavy.
Top heavy.
And then the creature is like lean and mean. The mummy. You know. There's the one gag in this, and like when where it's like for this ritual to banish the monsters, they need a virgin.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, and then it's like it's not working, and then that rang a bell, and I was like, is this where that originate, or like was that in another movie? I feel like that was in another movie.
It feels like it was definitely in another movie or show, and I couldn't remember.
Yeah. Like the movie does kind of come together. Like it's got all these different elements and so, but it does kind of escalate.
Yeah, the stakes keep rising, and then I like when
Shane Black. I don't know if we shouted him out
love
yet.
Shane, Pittsburgh's own Shane Black.
Yeah, and just very like that. Like a Shane Black movie is what like a movie was to me, like as a kid and stuff. Like he figured out like that like 80s formula, you know.
Tom, we gotta do Decker and Black's Shadow Company. Been craving that for like it's so good.
And he did Iron Man 3.
Love Iron Man.
Iron Man 3 felt like a throwback to me because it was like such a classic. You know, it was like
Shane Black.
It was like a Shane Black. It felt like a movie that should have come out in the 80s. And probably if you were going to make an Iron Man movie in the 80s, you could have made that one because you could see how it wouldn't be too hard to kind of scale that down to like 80s special effects. You know,
absolutely. I think it's one of my favorite Marvel movies, Iron Man 3. And we got another Fred Dekker script too. I know Godzilla, King of the Monsters 3D that was supposed to come out in 83.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't that have been sick?
Yeah. There was kind of a trend for a while of like, you know, sort of like unmade movie scripts becoming comic books, like a way to kind of get it into, you know, like that trend has kind of, you know, quieted down lately, but there's a cool one.
Yeah, Godzilla King of the Monsters 3D. And yeah.
Oh man, when they go into that house too, it is so great. It is kind of like, you know, the sort of Halloween trick-or-treat kind of like House of Horrors kind of thing where like they're in this house and there's like, you know, a boogeyman, you know, like a werewolf pops out of here and this and that. Oh. And then you have the iconic thing from the from the trailer of like, kick him in the nards. Wolfman's got nards. That was in the trailer. That was, you know,
the theater like erupts.
Yeah.
Wolfman's got nerds. Look, he's giving away nerds.
And I thought like, oh, the nards thing, kick him in the nards. That's for the commercial, but then when you watch the movie, it's going to be kick him in the balls or kick him in the nuts. But it is nard. It's or kick him in the nads. How about kick him in the nads? But it's nard. It's still nards.
Nards is the only time like I've ever heard them refer to. Like not even on the playground.
It was like it was going to take them from PG-13 to R. You know,
yeah.
So they're like, it was going to get them an X rating if he said nads or nuts. So they said, okay, nards.
Like Midnight Cowboy and the Monster Squad. Yeah, like kick him in his fucking beanbags.
You know, when the kick him in the nards. When the Wolfman shows up for the kick him in the nards scene, it's like Ray Parks or somebody, like, because he jumps in and then he goes like this. You know, it's like such a, you know, jazz hands, kind of like he's doing such a move. Yeah.
Also, the reason why they said to kick him in the nards is he's got like 2 sizes too small jeans. Right, you can see the complete outline. It's like,
and it is like they're running from like room to room, and it's like they're getting chased by the Wolfman, and then they run into the room of Dracula's, you know, 3 brides, and then they run and there's Dracula, and
he's like,
you know, he's, you know.
They're like, he's got those painted on blue pants.
And then there's like another scene that's in the trailer where like the one dad is like, oh, what do you think? And he opens the door and there's the mummy.
That freaked me out. Yeah. And like any werewolf scenes freak me the fuck out. But kick him in his furry meatballs.
I saw this movie when it came out, and then I maybe like rented it like once after that. And then I don't think I've seen it again until now. Like, is this like regular viewing for you?
Definitely
like
regular.
Ernest,
Scared Stupid
or something. Yeah, it's so funny.
Like Ernest Scared Stupid. We watch it every year, and I think it's going to get a comeback because they're screening it this Halloween at the New Beverly. So
I was kind of shocked how good this was.
It's so good.
And it's like it feels like it should be in that group of sort of like beloved movies like The Goonies or something. Because I think that's another one they were kind of trying to like reference or whatever. But it's really good stuff.
It is like. We love our Universal monsters and like anything like there's a Lego line Monster Fighters. I feel like they were inspired by this movie because like Dracula when he shows up driving his like hearse, I've got the Lego Dracula hearse that looks like his fucking car from this movie.
When this movie came out, like 87, I feel like that must have been when I was like at an age where like my parents felt okay with like dropping me off at the movies or like going to the movies like by myself or with a friend or something. Because it was like, saw this in the theater, saw Roger Rabbit, saw GoBots.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
I'm trying to think, what was another 87 thing? And wanting to go see RoboCop and then turning down the opportunity to see Superman: The Quest for Peace. So it was like, 87 was probably like, the beginning of that for me, because I saw a lot of stuff.
I was, little seeing some like Don Bluth animated movies, and like I saw Land Before Time, 88, and then like Harry and the Hendersons. That's what this is like the time when I'm starting to remember movies in the theater. Like
there's like an age where like your parents taking you to the movies is just a huge hassle for them. Where it's like, okay, are you gonna be crying? Are they gonna have to like take you out of there? Are you gonna be loud? Or whatever. So there is like an age. There's an age where like, okay, you're kind of old enough to go to the movies, and then there's an age where it's like, okay, you're old enough to go to the movies by yourself. Although I guess that probably doesn't exist anymore. Like when I was a kid, we were. Sort of like shockingly free to kind of like just roam.
Oh yeah, like like my parents would drop us off at the theater.
Yeah,
my poor mom had to watch Blair Witch Project because I had to flag her down in the parking lot as she was leaving.
That's a good mummy too. Like mummies are. Oh, and we got this cute beagle.
I love that beagle. That mummy is so scary. We love our mummies. Like one Halloween, I stupidly wanted to be a mummy, and I didn't plan it through, and I started to wrap toilet paper around my leg. And I like had to abandon it after like
it's an undertaking. Oh, we got like a bow and arrow and stuff, and unraveling the mummy.
That's so fun. What a great gag. They're like, kick him in the nard. They keep saying that to every like bad guy.
Right, yeah. It's a very one-note movie, but that is pretty cool. It like he starts unraveling. An inventive little movie. This is going to be like regular Halloween viewing for me from now on, because it is
every year.
Yeah, every year.
And then you got
and you got these great cops.
I forgot.
Those cops are great too. They look familiar. I feel like I've seen them in other things. Did you see the Death Proof car?
Oh yeah, he's like, you really got to be sitting where I am. Yeah, that Peter Hyams, like one of my favorite directors, is an executive producer on this, and like that guy on the left is like a Peter Hyams, like I think he's a Peter Hyams guy,
right? And
then the guy driving the kid's dad, he's the guy that was praying like, was it younger than me?
Yeah. Like, now he is, right?
I didn't double check. I was too scared.
Now the mom, she looks super familiar. It's like she's the quintessential 80s mom. She's like the mom in E.T., the mom in Poltergeist,
She's the mom from the Goonies.
Oh, okay. Well, then there you have
it. She's Mary Ellen Trainor, Mrs. Robert Zemeckis.
Okay, so yeah.
Rest in peace. She passed away.
Now, so is Robert Zemeckis involved in this? It feels like it.
I'm pretty sure he's not involved.
Okay.
But she's like she is connected to. We'll have to cover Ricochet with Denzel Washington. It's in the Die Hard universe because she plays a newscaster in Die Hard.
Okay.
And the same newscaster in Ricochet. So Ricochet is taking place in the Die Hard verse.
Nice.
They're both, but Fred Decker did the story for Ricochet.
Okay.
So that's like a peripheral Decker film. Last time I checked, it was on HBO. I love
So Monster
movie.
Squad, thumbs up. I don't know, like, I guess as a kid, it's like, I hadn't learned to be sort of just like kind of happy with what you get. I was kind of like, hey, I was promised a better movie than this, and I want my money back. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics. I Am Stan, and Jack Kirby's Star Warriors, starring Adam Starr in the Solar Legion. And on Friday the 13th, this Friday the 13th in October, launching a Kickstarter to produce a new superhero comic called WITCHMAN. So please follow the link and support that campaign.
I'm Matt Zeoli.
And follow me on Twitter at Tom Scioli, on Instagram at Tom_Scioli, and support my Patreon. Go to patreon.com.
Follow the show on Instagram at total_recall_show. Monster Squad.
Great, like, and I think it's like isn't it like a crane shot or something? They kind of pull out and you see everybody kind of partying in the town square. It looks like the same town square from Back to the Future. I wouldn't doubt if it's like the same back lot.
We're the monsters.
We're the Monster Squad. Like my voice still hasn't gotten as deep as this 12-year-old. You said that that's the one kid in this is David Faustino's older brother.
I think he's older brother or younger. He was on he has like a lot of other movie credits. I can't remember, but this wasn't his only one.